All right. Welcome to Coffee and Commiseration. This is your host, Kaye Steinsapir, and I have my first official guest, my friend Stephanie Renner.
I didn't know I was your first guest.
You're my first guest. And
Nice.
I love that you're my first guest because I feel like, there's a lot of people that I want to talk to and that have agreed to come on, but I particularly feel like the message that we have to share is one that a lot of people don't understand. Um,
Hmm.
so Stephanie, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself? We know each other because we
Hmm.
worked together at a law firm years ago. And then you moved back to Kentucky where you're from. But just give like a little background.
Yeah, so we know each other, but you were actually a summer associate first, I think, because I'm
Yeah.
I'm a few years older than you. Um, and I lived out in LA. I'm originally from Kentucky. I lived out in LA right after law school for 3 or 4 years and moved back to Kentucky. I've been in both Lexington and Louisville. I'm in Louisville now. I'm back working at a law firm, done a few things in between then, been general counsel at a bank and that kind of thing. Um, and I think our sort of reconnection has been because born out of tragedy. I lost my oldest son, Jordan, to suicide last May, almost a year ago exactly. Um, his actual date of death is May 12th, which was Mother's Day last year. Uh, we know he actually died on the 11th. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I always find it important to say that, but date of death is the date that they declare you. So that is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Um, I've been following your story for a long time. Uh, but obviously it became much more, I don't know, pertinent, hit home more, all of that over the past year. And, I'll just start off telling you something that um, I remembered last night when I read something you had posted on a Facebook group we're in. But I admit that I probably judged you a little at one time. And it wasn't like ill intent or anything. It was probably born more out of like concern, like, oh my gosh, like she seems to really be dwelling on this. Or
Yeah.
and I never thought a parent could move on. That certainly wasn't what I thought. I
Right.
don't know what I thought, but I think about it all the time,
Yeah.
which is why I'm really glad we're having this conversation because I think it's something for people to learn from. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think people have human reactions to things. And fortunately for most people, they're not in our situation. And this is something you can never understand until you're in it, right?
yeah.
And everyone deals with loss and grief in different ways, and there's no right way. But at least for me, with Molly only having 12 years, and she was just somebody who would have done so much in the world. And at the same time I lost Molly, I lost my career for unrelated reasons, right? I had cancer, and the cancer and treatment and everything made it impossible for me to continue doing that. So I lost like my identity professionally at the same time I lost Molly. And
Mm.
I felt like, I mean, I didn't feel like anything. I didn't make any conscious decisions, right? I mean, I didn't, wasn't like, oh, let me, uh, I don't know, pursue this new path. It was more like, because Molly was hospitalized for 2 weeks and a community sort of grew up around us, I felt like, well, I want to do something positive with this. Like I want to use the platform I have to talk about things that matter to Molly and to maybe, you know, create some of the things in the world that I think she would have done or would make her proud of me if I could do
Yeah.
that kind of in her stead. And relatedly,
Mm.
our law firm, Brian Cave, um, generously offered to help me set up a foundation, right? And I had
Oh,
no
wow.
like what that entailed.
Uh-huh.
Like I was just like, sure, yeah, okay, of
Yeah.
course. Because I think, and I talk to so many grieving parents who want to do things like this for, they want their child to be remembered, and to know that their life still matters. And they're trying to do that in all sorts of different ways. And I was handed the opportunity to have a foundation. And so, of course, like you, I mean, it's like I'm an overachiever. I'm somebody who, I give it my all. That's how we ended up where we ended up kind of in life, I think. And because it was my child, it's like I'm super turbocharged to like make it matter and count.
Yeah.
But I know many people, of course, I mean, I think it's really like helpful to hear you say that you judged in some way, not in a malicious way, but in just like a like not understanding way, or like a, what this is not something people want to continue hearing about, It's
Right.
uncomfortable. It is awkward. It reminds people of their worst fear in life. And so this is
Yes.
something that I think, people would prefer to not think about
To
and
move on from.
scroll
Yeah.
past to something more, positive and uplifting in their social media feed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But now, I mean, now that you're in join this like terrible club that nobody wants to join of having lost a child, like how do you see it differently?
Oh, um, I mean, I think it's just what you said. I have to make meaning.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's I don't know what else you do, because people say to me, I don't know how you do what you do. I don't know how you keep going. I don't know how you get out of bed, whatever. And
Yeah.
part of that is I have another child, obviously. So you do what you have to do for your other kid. I mean, Trevor's 17 now, and um I couldn't just not go on. But I also just keep saying, I don't know what other choice there is. And I think that's part of my particular place in life. And I think a lot of women who are overachievers, take care of things, survivors. I mean, you've talked a lot about your past and your story, and you were for sure a survivor. We're so used to taking care of everything and being in charge of everything. And, I haven't had a partner either through most of this. Um, I have found someone recently who is, it's, it's overwhelming. Like, I can't believe I never really had a real partner in my life.
Yeah.
And I do now, and I don't even know what to do with
Amazing.
it.
So glad. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Good for
thanks.
you.
Yeah, well, more about that later, because I
Yeah.
know we're going to get into talking about mediums and our children
Yeah.
speaking to us, because
Yeah.
we both feel strongly about that. But
Yeah.
um, I think it's just my nature to just take charge and do, right? And I have to keep going, because who else is going to do it for me?
Yeah.
So this, in order to do that, this is how I have to keep Jordan alive.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we stop talking about him, you know, he doesn't exist
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
And then for me, particularly, I think, we can't be quiet about suicide. And we're scared to talk about it. And talk about shutting down conversation.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
I saw this meme about grief, and it's like this girl running, and it's like, on my way to a party to ruin everybody's time by talking about death and grief,
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
you can't
Yeah.
help
That's a
but,
good one. Yeah.
yeah, it always comes
Yeah.
up, right? Somebody
Yeah.
asks you about your kids or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Oh,
I
it's
don't know.
awful. Like, I feel like that you don't realize it until you're in our position. How
Yeah,
often people will ask you how many kids you have?
yes,
That question all the time, that by people who don't know me, just as small talk. You have kids, how
yeah,
many? And then
yeah,
in that situation, you're always in that. I find myself in that moment going like running through my head, like, on the one hand, I don't want to leave Molly out because, as you know, like I always want to talk about her. And then sometimes I don't have the energy to get into it, and I don't want to deal with the awkward moments and all of that. So I find myself going, I have two sons, and just not saying anything. I
hmm,
It's such a weird thing, and I think we don't even realize like how common it is. And
no,
you're in our position, right?
yeah. I never even thought about how people answer that question. And I don't know what people expect. I think there are people who, when I answer it the way I do, which is almost always, I have two sons. My youngest is 17. Unfortunately, I lost my oldest about a year ago.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I, I don't know what people expect because I think some people, I've been with coworkers or whatever, like at work conferences. That's always the most awkward are these networking events. And I go to a lot of conferences. And so I think sometimes I feel like the people with me expect me to just say I have one and move on so that we don't have to get into this in the
Yeah.
setting.
Right.
Um, and then, if again, if you want to make things really awkward, then they ask you, well, what happened? And
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't really want the answer to that. But
Yeah.
it's important to me to say it
Yeah.
because nothing ever changes. I mean, part of the reason it happens is because we don't talk about it, right? So,
Yeah.
um, but talk about a party stopper.
There's a human reaction to tragic situations, especially the loss of a child, like everyone's worst fear.
Mhm.
To immediately try to find ways to create, something in your head that helps you feel like it's not going to happen to you. Like,
Yes.
right? Like, for example, a boy, a 17-year-old boy, in our community, was tragically killed over the past weekend.
Hmm.
He was hit by a drunk driver. He was walking from a party and he was hit by a drunk driver, and it's heartbreaking and tragic. And in my, group chat with my mom friends, there was discussion about this and all the questions coming up. What happened? Where was he? Was he walking? Was he in a car? And similarly with Molly, it's like people want to know, was she wearing a helmet? Because actually they would, in some way, whether they realize it or not, they would be
Judge you.
if the answer was no. Like,
Yes.
right? They want to find something that allows them to not sit with their own fear that this could happen to them.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think it's so common. And the same thing with cancer. I mean, people will ask me questions because I was diagnosed at 39 and I had no real family history of anything. And they will, they want to find a cause, like a reason you did something. And
Yes.
honestly, that's kind of what it is. It's kind of like there was something wrong here. She didn't have her helmet on, but no, she did. And like, or must have, I don't know, had a family history, a gene that caused this, or I smoked or something. But the truth is, those things aren't true. It's
Yeah.
I would love to know. I mean, and I think this is so important, and I think about you and Jordan a lot, parenting Nate, because Nate is a kid. I mean, like, look, any kid at 14 is going through things, it's
Hmm.
the nature of the beast. But Nate is a kid who his entire life has been his mom had cancer, the world shut down during a pandemic, his sister died, and now his town burned down. And it's like, what the fuck, I mean, it's
Yeah.
so much. And I really worry about how much can he take, and life is just hard in general. There's all this division in society, there's all this hate, there's uncertainty about the future, and I know he feels it, and I worry about him. And I literally, like, I find myself like just constantly kind of checking in, talking to him, but also checking in just physically, like, what are you doing in there?
Yeah.
Like, what's going
Oh,
on in there?
I know.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, so can we talk about that? Because that's something I've been wanting to talk to you about in general, is just kind of like, what are we, from your experience, like, what should parents be thinking about and looking for in their kids if there's
Yeah.
a given
So,
that it's just so hard to be a kid and there's so much difficulty and there's so much, struggle. I mean, what are the
mhm.
things, or what do we look for in our kids?
Well,
And
so,
I know it's not a one size
look,
fits all, but just
no, it's not. And
from
also,
your,
let's just
yeah,
to clarify, we're
yeah,
lawyers, not
yeah.
psychiatrists or psychologists or
Of course,
whatever,
yeah,
right?
this is not
Therapists.
psychological advice.
Yes.
This is
Yes. Yeah.
not, yeah, disclaimer. This is
Yeah.
two moms who lost their eldest children,
Yeah.
and we're just talking about our personal experiences. But as someone who lost a child to suicide, I mean, I think, I'm always thinking, like you are, about kind of creating meaning and helping other people through sharing our stories.
Hmm.
You know, I obviously did that with the e-bikes. You know, I've talked to a lot of people about e-bike safety and, you know, shared that. And
Hmm. Hmm.
if we can, and I always feel like if we can help one other person, you know, if we can save one other person some way, right? If somebody becomes more aware because of
Hmm.
what we talked about, even if it was awkward for them to listen to,
Yeah.
then that's a good thing.
Yeah. So, I think all the research shows that talking openly, being open about feelings, using the word suicide, not being afraid of that word,
Right.
talking about it, I have friends, even a therapist friend, who have chosen not to tell their kids about people who have died by suicide in their lives.
Mm.
And one of my friends whose child wouldn't be on social media seeing the things I post necessarily has chosen not to tell her children how Jordan died.
Mm.
Um, I respect whatever people do for whatever reasons they do it. I am in no way telling people to parent because I
Yeah.
could, I've done a lot of things wrong. Um, but all the research says that that is probably not the way to go about it. And it's important to talk about it so that there's no shame in talking about it, right? And it's not generally a someone else did this, so I'm going to do it type of thing. I'm not
Right.
saying that never happens because it
Right.
does
Right.
sometimes,
Yeah.
but I don't have a magic answer though, and I'll say this, I've really struggled with, and this is the first time I'm doing anything like this publicly like this. I mean, I'm a very public person on my social media. I have been very, very intentional about not shying away from talking about Jordan's death and what happened all the way down to his obituary because he and I talked about this a lot. We talked about people hiding what happened to
Yeah.
people and how that was, we respect people's choices, but it's not how we felt was the right way to go. And I knew it's not what he would want. Um, but what I have struggled with is what my message is because we did talk very openly
Mhm.
all the time.
Mhm.
And he was making threats since he was 11 years old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um, I thought we did all the things we were supposed to do,
Right.
and it still happened,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'll get to in a minute sort of what I've come to as my message from that. But before that, just talking about signs and
Mhm.
what you can do. I mean, there's signs of withdrawal, like, um, you know, bad sort of bad choices in friends, drugs, all those things, right? But I, the people who have told me that they were surprised by their children's suicide, um, I think generally wish they just had more open conversations about mental health
Yeah.
and um, where their children are at. But I'll tell you also, like, sometimes you just don't know. And, you
And,
know,
and I'm doing exactly what I just said people do, right? Which is like I'm asking you to help me feel
yes.
less worried and like it couldn't happen to me or I could do something or there's some control I could have. And the truth
Yeah.
is there isn't. Like there are a lot of things that are just outside of our control.
Well, so this is where I've come to in the
Yeah.
message, right? And when you were first talking about people needing to make themselves feel better, it reminded me, I have a good friend, her name is Kim Diamond, and I'm using her name because she is also very open about her son's death. His name was Madison. He died, I want to say 10 to 12 years ago. And her daughter went to the same school as my boys for a while. And she was always very open and has been an advocate for suicide prevention and mental health awareness and does a lot of wonderful things in Madison's name. And so when this all first started happening with Jordan when he was in middle school, I went to her and I remember going to her house that night and sitting in her floor by her couch, drinking wine, and just asking her to tell me about Madison. And I went there wanting to hear he was so different than Jordan. He wasn't talking about it openly. He wasn't this, he wasn't that. Like, and the truth is, they were very, like, eerily sometimes similar.
Wow.
Um, Down to the age and the way they chose to die.
Really?
Yes. And when I left that night, I felt loved and comforted by her in some way, but it it didn't give me what I wanted,
Yeah.
which was this isn't going to happen to your
Yeah,
child.
some way to like avoid, right?
Right.
Like what do I do to avoid this? What do I, how can I, what steps can I take to and look, I mean, obviously you're right in that there are things you can do, which like I think is so important that you said use the word suicide and talk about it openly.
Hmm.
Because it's something that I think a lot of people don't do.
Yeah.
I'm really open with my kids and I talk to them a lot. And I will say I don't even I don't know it. I think I tiptoe around that word as well. I think I
Yeah.
say things like more like, they ended
Took
up
their life.
or they,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I think that so there I guess both things can be true. Like
Mhm.
it is true that like you can help people recognize things and just by your example of the fact that like you did have these conversations, right?
Mhm.
And also it is true that we don't control many things in life and we do not control other people, including our children.
Right. And that is where, so I had this sort of epiphany in my trying to understand what my message was going to be and how I was going to use this as an opportunity to talk to people. I was talking to a friend who, in the course of the conversation, said something to the effect of, well, you did everything you could. And, sometimes when people say things that I don't find helpful, I let it go because I know they mean well. I do have some friends who I feel like I can be honest with and say, here's why this is or isn't helpful. And I said, I don't find you did everything you could to be helpful. I know what you mean by that, and I appreciate it. You look at me, you think I'm a great mom. You saw all of our struggles because we went through hell with Jordan, particularly the past 2 years before he died, because he just was going down a really bad path with some bad decisions. Um, and it took up so much of my time and energy. But when I hear people say you did everything you could, well, first of all, it's not true.
Yeah.
My brain is extremely logical, as shocking, right? And like no one does everything they can.
Mhm.
No one. There is always something more. No one is perfect, and not just I did everything I could or everything I knew how to do at the time or whatever. Like just sometimes I made decisions to choose myself because I was exhausted with him,
Right,
right? And I have had to come to this place of peace and understanding that just because I didn't do everything I could does not mean that it was my fault.
right.
And
Yeah.
I think this applies in so many situations, not just in suicide, but in an accident or child gets cancer or a disease or whatever it is, right? When people say very well intended, you did everything you could, I hear, and I went through this sort of time when people would say it where I felt like I had this dirty secret that if they knew some of the
Yeah.
choices I made,
Right.
that they would judge me.
Yeah.
And I always want to say, but if I didn't do everything I could, does that mean you think I'm a
Yeah.
bad mom or that I caused
Right.
my child's death?
I think that's so
Because
important to think about and to realize. And I
yeah.
can relate to it in that Molly obviously was on an e-bike, right? And
Hmm.
our neighbors across the street had recently the older daughter had gotten that bike as a gift for her bat mitzvah. And so they've only had it a couple weeks. And from my eye, like seeing it from a bit of a distance, it just looked like a two-person bike. And I just didn't know anything about e-bikes. Like,
Hmm.
and my friend, whose daughter got the bike is a nurse practitioner. And I just never occurred to me that like she would have this bike for her kids that might, not be for their age, I it just never occurred to me. And I could have done more. I could have walked over there. I could have asked questions. I could have, inquired. I could have said no, but I didn't because I'm human and I just, I, I just didn't know. And
Yeah.
it's, and again, it's like, and there are so many things in there that like, and even if I had, like, even if I did, I mean, I still don't know that I would have been, even if I saw it closer, I mean, it was just like a little bike ride around our neighborhood on a Sunday morning. Like I'd seen kids younger than Molly on it. So I
Hmm.
don't know even then, but I mean, as a parent, especially, I think we feel like we failed at our most important job if our kid died. It's like our job, the most
Yeah.
important job in life is to keep our kids safe. And if they died for whatever reason, we failed them in some way. We failed ourselves, we failed at our job. And time, no. So this is you know, obviously, this is not a professional podcast, and you are starting your own podcast, which will be professional.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
When you see my good friend who's doing it with me, there's nothing about the two of us that is professional together, but maybe the production might be a little more professional, but okay,
I
by
mean,
the way,
I
this
need
whole
it.
this
Can
whole
you
reader
still see
thing,
me? Can you see me?
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
can you not see me?
No, because I'm upgrading my Zoom because they require me to pay to keep talking, which is
Oh,
so funny, right? Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think that is such a common thing, and we're all human. We all are, lacking in whatever. And it's not even lacking. It's just like we're human,
Yeah.
and we can't do everything. We can't be there at all times. We can't. We don't have visibility into everything our kids do,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No, so I mean, when I came to this sort of realization that this this acceptance that I did everything I could do,
Yeah,
um, it's freeing.
yeah,
In a you know, there is no freedom from
yeah,
the grief, but
yeah.
and I'm always going to go down some guilt rabbit hole at some point. But it is there it's odd because that phrase is meant to comfort you or make you feel better, but
It
rejecting
doesn't.
that
It does the
right,
opposite.
but rejecting it actually is what
Yeah.
has given me freedom,
I
oddly.
mean, it's amazing that just a year out, you have so much wisdom and like that you are able to even have this conversation a year out. And like right before Mother's Day when this happened is, I mean, I'm in awe of you, honestly.
Well, I what I've learned is you don't know what's going to happen next in this process, and tomorrow I could be like in my bed not able to get up for the next year. Who knows?
Yeah, and
It just
I think that's always the case, by the way. I mean, I'm
yeah.
what, oh, 4 years into this. I've completely lost all track of time, by the way. It's like time has just, I don't know, it's just not, it's just not what it used to be, you know?
When
I
did that happen?
totally, I feel like I'm in a time warp of some kind.
When did that happen? Because I am having this I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but the struggle with this year anniversary coming up. And,
Yeah.
you know, you sort of, I think everyone does this. You count the months, right? Oh my God, I can't believe it's a month. I can't believe it's 6 months,
Oh,
whatever it is. And
yes.
now we are getting to a year. And I keep thinking, what, what now?
Yeah,
Like, do I keep counting? Do I,
I know.
like, how
I
does it,
mean,
I
yeah.
don't know.
And
It's
and
a
then
weird,
there's another form of guilt, which is like, because it I don't know. And I think honestly, I think with a child dying, it is such the biggest kind of challenge. I mean, something like my husband grapples with terribly is, feeling guilt about, he should have done something. He should have whatever. And also, there were also other issues, right? It was like it was a freak accident. Everybody thought she was going to wake up. She was wearing her helmet, but I mean, there were issues with the bike. Like there were all these different things. Like if one thing just could have been different, right?
Hmm.
But to answer your question, it's like another form of guilt is when you're in my shoes, when you're several years out of sort of being like, oh, I don't know. Like I don't know how long it's been now.
Yeah.
And why don't I know that? Why am I not why do I not know the exact time anymore? And
Hmm.
like I have to sit and think about it. Okay, it was February 2021. And there's this feeling of like, fuck, like so much time has passed now. Like, and so much has changed. And all these kids, have grown up that Molly was friends with, and Nate has surpassed her in age. I mean, it's just like
Oh, that's wild. Yeah.
awful, like
Hmm. Hmm.
this really weird thing. And you have to, one of the guys in our group, our Facebook group, that I started and that we're both in, like said this, and it's so true. It's like looking back in your phone, to find pictures, right? Like, and realizing you got to keep going further and further back, right?
Hmm.
It's just a terrible feeling.
Yeah. Um, hmm.
I mean, I don't think there's a right answer. Obviously, there's never a right answer. But like I said, for me, it's like time has become just a very blurry thing in general.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't, honestly cannot believe, I still cannot believe, and I will never be able to believe, like I'm in a world without Molly in it. I'm here and she's not,
I did not. And
Like
you know that.
I just will never, ever be able to like get over it. You know what I mean? We'll never be able to like, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's still trying to do this stupid payment. Don't mind me. I don't know
You're
what.
fine. You're fine.
I don't
You
want
know,
to stop
so
recording us because we're having such a good conversation, of course. And I've been wanting to talk to you for so long. I mean, I'm going to keep talking to you regardless, but I would like people to be able to hear it. What is wrong with this? I mean, but yeah, I mean, and honestly, there are, I said this to John just the other night and he got upset with me and, kind of rightfully so, that I was just like, I just, like, I don't want to be here. Like, the truth is, the
hmm.
truth is, because I'm about telling the truth, like, and the truth is that there are a lot of moments in which I still feel like it, I don't want to be here. And like now we're getting into like a overlap, right? We're getting into the
Right?
topic
No,
of,
yep.
like suicide. Like no, and I mean, and it's hard to
Ah,
say that. Okay, I have to make sure this is recording us because I think this is
okay.
so important. Um, and I don't know because I'm on my computer what the hell this is. This is why I might need to hire your professional people to help me with this, you
Well, they're
know?
really great.
I mean,
Um,
obviously, I did order a mic and some headphones, so there's that. But like I was telling you kind of before we were talking, it's just like I do really feel like um I want to be an example for people of just fucking doing things even if they're not perfect, and
mhm.
even if it's not professional, even if I don't have all the things in place, just do it because you might not ever do it because you might not ever get your shit together. Okay,
Okay, it
I'm
says
not
it's
gonna do.
been upgraded.
Okay, I upgraded. I
You
upgraded.
have unlimited
Hilarious.
minutes. Okay, wait, I'm
Oh
gonna
my God. Isn't that
stop
funny?
you. I'm gonna stop you for a minute. We're gonna have a pause of this.
Okay, what do I
Can you
do?
see me now?
Oh, hold on. Where are you?
Crap.
Hold on. There's got to be a way. Get started. No, I just want to go to you again. Wait, where are you? Okay, hold on. But I can hear you.
So
Wait,
weird.
maybe if I go to you, are you there?
Well, I've been putting on my readers to show you because you pulled out your readers, and I was like, oh my
Oh,
God,
wait. Here
we're
you are.
old now.
Now?
See that?
Well, the good thing is, I think most people listen to this as opposed to
Yeah.
watch this.
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't have time to follow any analytics, like about who tunes into this. It might be like
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
people for all I know. But yeah, I mean, the truth is, like, and it's less so now. It's less so, but it is still the case that I have thoughts of like, if it were just me, and it's true, if it were just me, I would have ended my own life. Like I only continued because of my kids and because of John.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but it's like I almost died of cancer, and then I lost my girl. Like I, and I deal with this like crazy homeless mom. Like it's just like it's all sometimes just too fucking much.
Yeah.
And I would never actually harm myself because I have, I can't. Um, I can't for my kids, but I do have those thoughts. And we've talked about how sometimes we think like we've been on a plane and we're like, if it could all just if we could all just go. Like if we could all just go together and we wouldn't feel anything and we could just be with her again, like we would, you know. I
Yeah.
mean,
I,
obviously we're not having that conversation with the kids, but like
yeah.
John and I have had that conversation of like,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, and I think being open and honest about that is, I mean, when you stuff all that all inside, that's exactly how you get to a really bad place, right? And
yeah,
I get it. I have never been the kind of person to have those thoughts before, and I have thought, God, like I see it happens. Just I don't want to be here without him.
yeah. And almost because I know that Molly is still present somewhere in some
Hmm.
way. Her soul, her spirit is present somewhere. And I think we should talk about that too. But like
Yes.
almost because I know that, it's like I think, well, I could go and find her. Like if I when I die, I'll be with her again. I
Hmm.
believe that. So it almost like weirdly like leads me sometimes to think like I'm in the bathtub and I'm just like maybe I should just go a little further down under the water. Like, and maybe then I'll just be with her again because I just miss her so much. And I just want
Yeah,
to see her again, and
I know.
I did a lot of sessions with mediums, as you know, and like, and then and this is an interesting thing to talk about, which is like, at some point I was like, well, when do you stop doing it? Because it's like it's like almost like, can I call her? Can you
I
help
know.
me? Like,
Can you just dial her up? Yes. I just had this experience. I talked to the medium that I talked to the first. I've only been to one since Jordan passed, but and I didn't go to her. We had a phone conversation,
yeah.
which is makes the things that happen even wilder, by the way. But I recently talked to her again, and I got so nervous beforehand because I was like, what if she can't connect with him this time? I mean,
Yeah.
like the only reason I'm doing this is for her to like tell me what he's going to say, and like what if we don't have the same connection, and should I just leave this alone because I had this one great experience? Should I just like leave it at that and just hang on to that because I just I was so looking forward to it that I was so worried I was going to be disappointed, you know?
Yep.
And that didn't happen. I mean, we had a connection again, but I know I could go to someone else and they could
Yeah.
be the greatest medium in the world, but like if they don't
Yep.
connect, they don't connect, right? And I don't know how you thought about any of that before the first time you went. Uh, like I grew up in extremely evangelical, conservative Christian background, and it's crazy because I believed all kinds of wild and crazy things, right?
Right.
but
Yeah.
but I, I've sort of deconstructed or whatever, but like moved a lot away from that. And this idea of wrapping my mind around this has been so hard, and it still is to this day. And I have insane, clear stories of him speaking to me, and still I'm like, oh well, I don't
Me
know.
too. Me
Yeah,
too. And I've been to like more mediums, right? I've been to,
yeah.
I don't know, probably five maybe. And some of them in situations where um like I was in a group and nobody there even had my name. Like there's no way somebody
Hmm.
looked me up. I mean, I do know I'm public, so it's like in that creates a seed of doubt that like
Hmm.
maybe somebody
Yes.
has looked us up. Like, and John, like you, is this, not I don't want to say skeptic, I'm not put that word in your mouth, but he has said this, what when I say like you, he has said the same thing, like because he's religious, he's like, I believe in all kinds of crazy shit. Like, like this is like wild stuff. Like
Right.
um, and somehow it's like hard for me to wrap my brain around this and to not, and especially as lawyers, it's like we're trying to like analyze and we have that kind of brain,
Hmm.
very fact based, wanting to find concrete answers and everything. So, John and I had a really powerful experience with a medium in the year after Molly died, which was just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. This guy, Robert Brown, he's this like, I don't know, he's probably like 70. He lives in England. He's been doing this work for 50 years.
Hmm.
Did like a session with him, and he doesn't want you to tell him anything. It's like he knows nothing, nothing. He doesn't want you to even kind of like interact with him. He's just reading.
Talking.
And
Yeah.
it was like this old, overweight British guy was like embodying Molly. It was so fucking crazy. Like it was like he was, and Molly was very quirky, like Jordan,
Hmm.
like right, like I feel like, and I'm in touch with people who have lost kids, hundreds of them at this point, because similarly, like with breast cancer, with losing a child, it's like this is how I find meaning, and so I will drop what I am doing and talk to anybody who has recently been diagnosed or who has lost a child or whatever.
Hmm.
Like that is how I find meaning. And I know it's hard for people to kind of grasp that if they haven't experienced it. But because I've talked to so many people who've lost children, I have found a common thread that, and nothing is true in all cases, but a lot of these kids who left us early were really unique kids.
Yeah.
There was something that, and I even said this to John. I was like, looking back, um, if there was one of our kids that we might have lost early, it doesn't surprise me, although it fucking kills me that it was her. It doesn't completely shock me because she was not typical. Like
Hmm.
she viewed the world so differently. And like at 12 was having these conversations with us that we were like, where the fuck does this come from? Like, this
Yeah.
is not a typical kid kind of thing. I'll give you an example. Like, Molly became aware of the war in Syria and Bashar al-Assad, and what he was doing to the Syrian people. And he was using nerve gas and he was harming children, all of this. She became aware of this somehow, not through us. We didn't tell her. And she was like 9. And she became so fixated on that. And she would ask us all the time what was happening and what we could do and how we could help and what impact we could somehow have, because it's just not okay that this is
Hmm.
happening right now in the world and nobody's stopping it, or we would pass a homeless person and it just, she couldn't handle it. It's like, well, mom, like we have money, we have food, we have more room in our house. Like we can't walk past this person and leave them on the street. And it was always like that with her, about so many things. And she was just different, so different. And so that medium, being able to tap into that, I was like,
Hmm.
okay, that is like, it's kind
Hmm.
of one of a kind stuff, right?
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was an old soul, as they say, and he fucking nailed it. So, like, I want to hear about what your experience it was.
Well, so there's a couple with the medium. I'll tell you with even apart from the medium,
Yeah.
uh, and this is Mother's Day relevant. So, obviously I can't help but go down this rabbit hole sometimes of finding him on Mother's Day and whether Mother's Day had something to do with this, right? Or whether it was a message to me or something,
Yeah.
which I know in my heart it wasn't because we were so close. And I mean, I was his person. Like, I know that. Um, but your brain does that, right? And I'm a mom and I'm human.
Mhm.
I take some weird comfort knowing that happened the day before, but that's got a
Mhm.
whole other set of things wrapped up in it. Anyway, so I have sort of expressed this out loud to him before and felt like I've gotten signs, but I was driving down the road. I don't remember what the month was, but I know it's probably November. I think it's World Suicide Prevention Day. The only reason I know this is because his friend who called me later. But so I'm driving down the road really upset. I'm in my car and I'm talking out loud to him and I'm saying, look, I just need you to tell me again. I need to know for sure. I need a plain answer that this had nothing to do with Mother's Day. And
Yeah.
you have to know, Jordan was sort of scatterbrained. He was likely on the autism spectrum. He like paying attention to those details. I like the truth is, I know he didn't probably know it was Mother's Day anyway, or Mother's Day was coming up, even if I had told him, right? Like we had
Right.
talked about it. We're gonna go see my mom, whatever. I that
Dude, my
not
kids
only
don't
is
know Mother's Day is coming
right.
up.
I mean, he's also
They
a teenage
don't know.
boy,
They don't
right? Like
know. Even I
one
don't think
minute
my
he knows
husband even
something, the next,
knows. And we've
yeah,
talked about it. Like it's not a thing for, I mean, we almost divorced over Mother's Day, I'll tell you after you finish. We literally like had the biggest fight of our entire marriage and literally almost divorced over Mother's Day.
no.
But you go on.
Anyway, so I'm
I mean,
saying
of
all
course
this,
you're wondering this. Of course.
right? So I'm saying
Anyone
all
would.
this to
Yes.
him. So I get home and like 2 hours later, his friend Heaven, who is like she just turned 25 and she's got a little boy, she calls me and they were very close in the last year of his life. She called me and said, hey, just calling to check on you. You know, I think she'd seen posts on Facebook about World Suicide Prevention Day, whatever. She felt like she needed to check on me. So I'm like, yeah, I'm great. Thank you so much. And we were having a conversation. We're talking to a little boy, blah, 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 whatever. And then we're sort of wrapping up our conversation and she starts kind of him hawing around like, well, hey, there's something I want to say to you. And I've been really worried about saying it because I don't want to put something in your head that's not there, but I've just decided I'm a mom and you're a mom and you need to hear this. And she said, you know, he didn't know it was Mother's Day, right? Like 2 hours, Kay, after
Yeah.
I said out loud to him in the car,
Yeah.
I need you
Yeah.
to tell me.
Right. It's fucking crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
So
pretty
that's a
powerful.
pretty clear one to me.
Pretty
But
powerful. Yeah.
so on the medium,
Yeah.
so this was July, which is only, I mean, it wasn't even 2 full months after he died. And this is a phone conversation, not Zoom, couldn't see faces or anything. And I got to give you one piece of background first. A few years ago, I probably had too much wine. I don't know. I
We both
ordered,
like to drink our wine.
yes, yes. I
I am
ordered,
so coming to Nashville so that we can, go
yes. Well,
out
you need to come to Louisville too. It's a
and
great
Louisville.
city, but
Yeah, I have heard
um,
actually a friend there. Yeah,
it
definitely.
is.
Right.
Anyway, so I had ordered these Care Bears. I don't know why. I guess I thought that it was, I think it was near Christmas.
I
I thought they
love
were
Care
coming.
Bears. They're from our
Yeah.
time. They're from our
Well, they
generation.
sort of have come back now, but at
Yeah.
the time they hadn't. I think I probably was getting them for my niece or something. I don't know, but they stayed in the top of my office closet for years and I did nothing with them. And only like three people knew they were there, like Jordan and Trevor, and then my friend Morgan, who helped me organize my office. And it was like this joke between us all. That's it. Nobody else knew they were there. So I'm on the phone with this woman. And again, I have the skepticism because I'm so public and she does have my name. She could easily look me up on social media, whatever. And she's telling me these things they're all resonating. And I'm thinking this sounds exactly right. But it's a teenage boy died by suicide. These all, so whatever. And she says he's going to send you signs. And one of the ways he's going to send you signs is through raccoons, which is
I thought of you, by the
interesting.
way, when we added two big raccoons to our mural in the
Oh
palace.
yeah,
I don't know if you saw it, but I thought of you guys. I know.
that's awesome. Well, it's very appropriate because just their personalities. But and then she said, and he's gonna send rainbows. And I was like, kind of rolled my eyes,
Yeah.
like, I want
Everybody's sending
rainbows.
rainbows, right?
Right, right, right. Of course
Yeah.
he's sending rainbows.
Yeah.
And then she says, uh, do you remember Care Bears? And I was like, and by the way, I'm sitting in my office looking into the office closet where the pink Care Bear with the rainbow and stuff
Yeah.
is sitting
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
top of
Yeah.
the shelf.
Right.
And I said, yeah. And she says, wasn't there one with a rainbow on its chest? Because he's showing me a picture of a Care Bear with a rainbow on its chest.
Yeah. And you're not like she can't see you. She can't see into your closet.
No, we're not on
Yeah.
Zoom. We're
Yeah.
not, no,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are just
Just on the
on the
phone.
phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'm looking at it. She's
Crazy.
like, what? And
We
she
have
says, why do you have a Care Bear? And I was like, I don't know.
crazy
But
like things that there you could and I mean honestly it's like what I find myself asking why am I doubting this? There's just too much.
right.
And I tell this to John. I'm like there's too much. Like
Yeah.
that just doesn't add up to like it's all bullshit. Like
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's like why do we try almost to like what is it about our brain that like kind of tries to give us like I don't know. I guess it's fear. I guess because my greatest fear is like and I felt this so much early on. It's like is she still here? Is she still here? Has
Right.
she gone away? Is she off? And I find myself, I literally ask this question and I say it out loud often. Where are you? Where are you? Like, Molly, where are you? Looking at like the moon, looking, at the ocean. We're just in this house. Where are you? Like, are you here? And then I will wonder, like, well, if these people can talk to her, like, why can't I? Why can't her
Yeah.
mom? Like, so many people sent me messages of dreams, lucid dreams they had of Molly. And very often was the same kind of thing. Like, I don't know if I should tell you this. It sounds weird. I'm not this kind of person. I'm a teacher in Pennsylvania. Like, I don't know. Like, but this is the dream I had, and my husband thinks I'm fucking crazy for telling you this. Like, but this is the dream I had, and I had this happen to me. I finally like started documenting it all because there's just so much of it. And I remember this woman in particular. It was like her dream was that we were together and Molly was there. We were at like a barbecue or something, and like we were standing talking, and Molly was there, and she could see her so clearly, and she came over to us and she said, "I've got to get on the bus now." And I've got to help the kids. And she got onto the bus and she was helping to buckle all these kids' seatbelts
Oh.
and to get ready to, and I've got to go now and I've got to go with these other kids. And like that's been a really common theme in all the medium, readings we've done and all these dreams. It's like, and the British guy, Robert Brown, he said she's like a Pied Piper on the other side. She's got all these kids and animals around her. And it's been a really constant theme. And none of these people know each other or know that they've said the same thing, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And so I did start writing it down so that I could go back when I start doubting and remind myself, like, of all of these things, that this is real. She is not gone. She is with us. Like, there's something bigger at play here. Like that they're
Hmm.
really not gone and that I am meant to be here. Like I am meant to be here and we're really working together in everything that I'm doing. And I really believe that. And it's part of why I'm still talking about this and I'm going to keep talking about this and keep talking about Molly because I really believe that I really feel guided by her in my we all have our moments, right? I have my low moments where I'm like, I just want to fucking sink under this water and be done with all of this. It's just too hard. It's too hard to get up and face the day when she's not in this house. And her brothers, are growing up without her. And I wonder if Eli even remembers her at all because he was only
Oh God. I know. That's gotta be hard.
it's so hard. And like he looks and sounds so much like her. And it's like
Mm.
so bittersweet. Like
Yeah.
such a wonderful gift. And it's also like, and I know it's so hard for Nate because it's like he went from being the younger brother to her to being the older brother in a two sibling situation. And he looks and sounds just like her. It's gotta be like fucking really hard. It is. Sometimes
Yeah.
he'll come to me at night and be like, Mom, like he looks like her so much.
Mm.
So that reality is so fucking hard to live with. And then I also know because it happens so much in my daily life, like of all of these things sort of lining up with like what we're doing with her foundation and kind of the right people just showing up with the right exact things that we need to move forward and do things that I'm like, okay, all right, all right. In fact, there was, speaking of signs, there was it was my birthday because around these times, around these days, you start like really feeling it. Like, I
Hmm.
gotta know you're here with me. I gotta know you're here with me. And I was at the beach with this group of this woman, Laura. What is her last name? Why am I blanking? Because I can't remember anything. her son died during the pandemic also. She's very public. She was a public figure already. She's a therapist, like a sex
Hmm.
therapist. Laura,
Oh,
that was her last name. They drive me crazy. Um, Her son died because he took drugs that came over like Snapchat. Like he got
oh,
drugs that he thought
yeah.
were something else and they contained fentanyl, I believe.
Hmm. Hmm.
She similarly, also tries to find meaning by sharing and by, bringing grieving moms together. So I'm at the beach. It's my birthday. And I'm thinking, God, I gotta see a sign from Molly. I'm at the beach. That's her place. That's where we scattered her ashes. Like, and I'm distracted by just looking for a sign from her and I don't see anything. I'm like, okay, that's disappointing. So I leave and I'm dying. I have to pee so badly. I'm at the beach in Venice where they've now closed all the public restrooms because of the homeless epidemic we're experiencing. So there's nowhere I can go. And I'm such a rule follower that I don't want to go into a business that I'm not buying something from, that I'm not eating at. Like,
Yes.
so I'm like dying. And I go to like where I get my car from the valet. And I'm like, is there any place, any restroom around here I could use? And he's like, well, you can come and use the one we use, the valets. And he drags me like on this long walk to this restaurant that is gutted, that's totally empty, that they're redoing. And he's like, there's a restroom in here that we use. And this is a whole big building, a restaurant that's totally empty. I go in there, I sit down. At first I see some like painted rocks there. I'm like, maybe there's a rock there. Maybe that, it says Molly or I don't know, whatever. And I don't see anything. I sit down to pee, and in the whole wall in front of me, literally, it's like, I don't know, 8 feet tall, huge painting of a woman and huge Molly written across the top. And I
Good.
was like, yes, girl. Like,
Yeah.
yes, yes, you did. Yeah. I actually laughed. I was like, oh my God. Like, yes, you did that. I mean, and so there are so many examples of that. But then, then I'll go for a long spell of not feeling or hearing anything. And I kind of am tempted, like, do I go to a medium again? But like you, I'm like, I don't know. I have had one that wasn't able to make a connection. And all of these relatives of John were coming through, and I'm like, no, we don't want to hear
I
from
don't
you.
want to care. I don't care
Like,
about them.
I don't know you. Like, so I have had that experience, and it's so devastating. And I know for other grieving parents, it's a real risk talking to a medium because it's like if they are not legit, which some of them aren't, or they just can't make a connection, it's devastating.
So I think also, you know, a gift that you and I have from our children is, this is part of what makes me believe it's real is the concept of energy, right? And energy can be created or destroyed and it
Yeah,
survives and all of that. And Jordan had huge energy,
yeah,
good and bad,
yeah.
right? Like
Right.
he the last
There's a
couple years,
force.
like I said, he
Yeah,
caused a lot of chaos in our lives for a
yeah,
couple of years.
yeah.
And it wasn't just his actions, it was just his energy, whether it was negative or positive, was it impacted
Tremendous. Yeah.
everyone around him, right? So if that's the concept of why
Mhm.
this is real,
Yeah.
it's not surprising that his energy has survived, right? And it's
Makes
still big.
sense.
And I think there are some people who just
Yeah.
don't have that, and that's not bad. I
Yeah.
mean, that means they didn't cause so much chaos or whatever, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But
Similarly,
um,
Molly took up 95% of our parenting
yeah.
focus and energy. She definitely, and I think about this like, obviously it's so heartbreaking and terrible for me that I didn't get to see her grow up and become a teenager. And John and I also joke she would have fucking like, I mean, she would have been so hard. Like
Hmm.
she was so hard
Hmm.
already. Like, and she was wonderful and sweet in so many ways and uniquely kind and saw the world in such a beautiful way. And she like, had a temper and she beat the shit out of her brother and she, would become frustrated and tear up her room. In fact, speaking of guilt, like one of the terrible things that happened during the pandemic was okay, John was doing, you'll relate to this. He's on court call. He's, sitting in the bedroom. The all three kids are home on a different Zoom. Like Nate is doing Zoom. Eli, poor little Eli's in preschool doing Zoom. Like the fuck. And Molly's,
I see.
supposed to be doing Zoom. And like, she started middle school on the computer and never actually got to go to her middle school.
Mm,
Um, somehow she, and it wasn't surprising. She was very distractible. She had ADHD. Like it was not surprising. She was
mhm.
very much struggling. So she was losing her shit in her room because she had organized. She would spend hours organizing like her pens, her gel pens of all different rainbow colors in perfect order. And her whole room would be a disaster except for this drawer would be in order. And she was losing her shit that day because somebody, I don't know who, she was blaming everybody, had come and disordered the pens. And she could not handle it. And she was literally spiraling. She was tearing her room apart. Like, and I could not stop her. Like, and I was worried as a lawyer like myself. I was like, oh my God, he's on, talking to a judge. They're going to hear this insanity in the background. Like and I'm trying my level best to stop this from continuing. And it's just spiraling, spiraling,
Mm.
spiraling, out of control. I finally slapped her. Like I didn't know what else to do. I could not control her. And I slapped her across the face. And I fucking live with that guilt. And it kills me. Like I feel so bad. And I felt so bad in the moment. Um,
And I bet she was
and I
dramatic about it,
Oh,
like never let you live it
what
down.
makes me feel worse? She was upset, but like also typical of her, because I apologized to her immediately.
Mhm,
That was not what I wanted to do. Like, and I'm like you. It's like I'm human. I don't know.
mhm.
And I grew up in a family. I grew up in a Southern family, um, where there was a lot of hitting. There
Yeah.
was a lot of like, you get your ass beat if you don't do what you're supposed to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's something I've had to like overcome in my own parenting. Like that is how I was raised, and I have had to work hard at like not reacting in that way when you know I'm upset by my kids or they're misbehaving or I can't control them. Uh,
Hmm.
and fortunately, my kids have been relatively, like Nate's super easy, Eli's super easy. We've never kind of reached those moments where I've been tested the way I was tested in that moment. Um, and even Molly, it's like she really was never spanked much at all, like at all. I can't think of it. Nothing comes to mind,
Hmm.
although there were many, many moments that were very, very challenging. But that comes to mind, and I feel horrible about it. And it's like looking back at the 12 years we had, I so often fixate on that moment as opposed to all of the amazing
Oh, yeah.
moments. And we were so close too. We were so
Yeah.
close, like you and Jordan. And I remember saying that to my mother-in-law after she died. We were so close because we were. In many ways, I was closer to her than I was to Nate because we just connected on a different level. And
Hmm.
he was my easier kid. But it's like we had some kind of I don't know, something else. And I constantly go back to that. And she did like accept my apology right away. Like, it's
Hmm.
okay, Mom. I know, it's okay.
Hmm.
So
So, on that whole taking up so much time and space and energy, one of the things I struggle with a lot, and I I imagine that Trevor does too, my other
yeah,
son, although we don't, he's a 17-year-old boy, he doesn't talk a lot.
yeah,
But he has a therapist that he talks to, and I feel comfortable that he's getting his needs met, but his life is easier now.
yeah,
And frankly, he is thriving
yeah,
um,
yeah.
in a way he hasn't in a very long time
Mhm.
because he lived the past couple years just like sort of trying to just not cause any more trouble or and to stay out of the way because the things Jordan was doing and things that were happening in our house and the people that were in our house or made him uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And I know he didn't always feel safe, neither did I. Um, and he was always scared. I mean, I think he knew this was always a possibility. We all knew it was always a
yeah,
possibility.
yeah,
Um, and it's weird when people ask me how he's doing, because I'm like, so they weren't that close because they
Right.
couldn't be.
Yeah.
Like they were just so different. And um I mean, the answer when people ask how he's doing is like,
Doing
he's doing
great.
incredible.
Doing
Yeah,
better.
no, I don't like
Literally.
what's
Yeah.
going on inside him. And I
Right.
mean, I know, I see
Yeah.
it. He shows it
Yeah.
sometimes and he gets a little emotional. And he clearly is doing his things in his own way to honor his brother.
Yeah.
But
That's tough. That's
yeah,
really tough. And I hear it all the time. I hear it from people who like, I now we are in a situation having experienced a loss or having one less child where we have more money. We can
yeah,
afford more things because of whatever reason, right?
yeah,
And that is a really weird guilt that you
yeah,
experience, right? Of anything that somehow comes from this, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. And you were saying like opportunities are kind of doors are opening for you. And that's true for me too,
Mhm.
by the way. Like, that was true for me. And just because, like, only because of the fact that like our story was so public because she was in the hospital for those weeks.
Okay, here's what's wild. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my best friend, I'm just at her house one day here in Louisville. She's
Yeah.
not a lawyer. She's not,
Right.
and she's like, "Oh my God, Stephanie, I have been following this woman on Twitter, and this story about this woman and
Yeah.
her daughter, it's so awful, and I can't." And I'm like, "Are you talking about Kay and Molly?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, I, Olivia, I know her. Really,
Yeah.
I knew you had a following, but it wasn't until like this person who I'm
Yeah.
friends with here, who has literally no connection to you in any way and would have no way of knowing we even knew each other really, is like this story
Mentioning
about this
that.
woman
Yeah.
and her daughter."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my God, that is crazy."
Crazy. And I
Yeah.
didn't even realize it at the time. I mean, because as you know, when this happens,
Oh, yeah.
you're in such shock and trauma. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was in the hospital with Molly, I was so out of my head, right? I mean, I was just literally just, you know, willing her to wake up. Um,
Hmm.
I was alone because of the COVID restriction.
I I
It
didn't
was
even think about that until you
horrific.
wrote about it recently. And I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh my
I
God,
was
that's
alone.
crazy."
And I did know, I felt that she could hear me. I really felt she could hear me, and I didn't want, and I just couldn't bear to repeat these fucking horrible stories to concerned family and friends who were asking,
Hmm.
and I didn't want her to hear me say these things. And I also didn't want to leave her. So I was just like, you know what? It's just easier for me to post an update that goes to everyone. And I
Yeah.
didn't use Twitter before this. Like, I didn't even really understand how it worked. Like, I only just recently started using it. So I just wasn't, I didn't, obviously, I didn't care about how far reaching it was. It just was not even something I had the bandwidth or space to care about. Uh,
Right.
but it did. And so therefore, like like I said, I ended up with some sort of platform that I've tried to turn into something positive, right? And try to
Hmm.
I mean, Molly, like one of my friends did a search of all the countries and places in the world where people posted like something about Team Molly or some prayers or well
Hmm.
something. And it was like the entire world. It was like 150 something different countries and territories and things that aren't I've never even heard of.
It's
Like
crazy.
it was like Antarctica. Like I
Yeah.
was like, who's there? Like a researcher? And I did go
I
back.
didn't know anybody lived there.
I did go back actually because I was curious. I did go back and search like my Twitter for Antarctica, and it was like a researcher. So I was like,
Crazy.
it's fucking crazy. And I think part of it was a pandemic that people
Hmm.
so much loss,
Yeah.
and she kind of became a focal point of loss and grief. Because
Hmm.
it was hard to articulate like the mass number of deaths and loss, and we're sort of faceless, like we're seeing on the news, oh, however many hundreds of thousands of people died or whatever it was, right? It was so
Hmm.
impossible to process that magnitude of loss. And our story was more personalized, and her face was out there, and I was
Right.
out there. And I think any mother or parent could relate to just trying to do everything in your power, your will. And I felt like she would wake up because her spirit was so strong and I loved her so much and we were so close. And if anybody could come through, if anybody could will their child to come back, it would be me and her. I felt that. And I told that to her doctor. I'm like, you don't understand. Like when they were telling me she wasn't going to wake up, I was like, you don't understand. You don't know. You don't know Molly and you don't know me. Like,
Mhm.
and I believe that. And on
Yeah.
the flip side of that, on the flip side of that, because that's true, I do believe it is why we're able to connect with
Yeah.
her so easily.
Yeah.
And why in a room full of people that don't know any, like some woman, a random medium that's up there was able to be like, and where's the mother of the girl on the bike? Just like all of, and not just that, because, again,
Oh,
if
this was Laura. Isn't it the woman who read that book that I like?
that was a different one.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the woman who wrote Signs.
Yes, yes.
That Laura Lynn Jackson, who's like
Yes, yes.
amazing mediums. No, that did happen at her thing, but this was another one. This was
That's
at
crazy.
some gathering of the other Laura who lost her son to um, the fentanyl. And
Wow.
she had some medium there I never heard of in a room full of people. And she went up there on the mic and she read somebody else who was like, it was somebody figured out they thought it was meant for them, it was like some details, but it was nowhere near, kind of what we did. And again, if it's about a bike, it's like, okay, maybe she just somehow, I mean, you'd have to believe these people are really like sociopathic to find details about a grieving family and then
Right.
utilize those
Exploit it.
to pretend. I mean, and she's not getting anything. I'm not paying. I'm just there. Like, I mean, she's not receiving anything. And John was with me, and we both went up to the mic, and it was like this woman rattled off all kinds of, very specific information, and some of it not non-public. And the craziest thing was at the end, and this is where John was like, okay, I guess maybe there's something to this because he knows it's true, but that lawyer brain, starts rationalizing.
Right.
She was saying, you will see her again. She's not gone. You will see her again. It's something like that. And John was thinking, like, I just want it to be now. Like, I just don't want to wait. It's same thing, right?
Mhm.
As he walked away and he was so sad, like he was just so heavy with that feeling of like, I just want it to be now. And she said, Dad, she stopped him, Dad. And she said it like that, like, almost like it was Molly's voice, Dad, you have to wait. It can't be now. Like, it's like, you can't, you're meant to be there. Like
Mm.
it's like she can kind of like similarly what you were saying, you needed that sign from Jordan and that other person said it. He didn't know it was Mother's Day. Like it was like Molly used her voice to say, I know that's what you're feeling. And I'm here to tell you, like, it can't be now, but it will be. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
wild. And he was like, holy fucking shit. Like, she's a mind reader.
She
Like,
literally read my mind. Yeah.
so yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know.
So, okay, I have one other crazy story at the medium, and then
Okay.
I want to tell you a little bit about
Yeah,
what I'm
please.
Gilly's friends, what I'm doing to honor
Yeah,
Jordan, because unfortunately, I do have a job that I
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
take
I know.
call.
I know.
um, so this is that first conversation I had with the medium. She said to me, this is super cheesy, she said, but he is telling me he's sending you Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You as a song. And I said, well, that's not cheesy at all because he knows how much I love Whitney Houston and he knows I always told people about the concert I went to when I was like 12 and I sat in the second row, blah, blah, blah.
No
Right.
way. Oh my God,
So
I'm so jealous.
yeah,
I'm a
well, no,
huge
wait.
fan too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that was whatever. I was like, okay, that's kind of that makes sense.
Mhm.
So that was, like I said, back in July. Fast forward to Valentine's Day this year. I just started seeing Tim, the guy I'm seeing like last October, and I have been saying for a while that I felt like Jordan sent him to me.
Yeah.
A lot of little crazy coincidences, whatever that you could just be making them up in your head.
Yeah.
Um, so I had said to Jordan, I really need you to tell me, like, if this is real, if you've sent this to me, whether it's forever or not, or whatever, I don't know. But like,
Yeah.
if this is you. So we were sitting on the couch watching Love is Blind because I have an obsession with that. That's an entirely different conversation. I made him watch it with me on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So we're sitting on the couch watching this, and we paused a couple times to talk or whatever. And one of the times we paused the TV, we paused long enough that it timed out. So I had to get back on. It's an Amazon TV. It's got the icons up there, and you're hovering over it.
It's like me trying to get more time on
Right.
Zoom while
You're
we're
right.
talking.
Yeah, yeah. So I go to turn it back on, and this is wild. I swear to you, we have looked and looked and looked. There is no anywhere near the Netflix icon. There's no music icon. There's no anything about
Yeah.
music. Okay. I swear that I clicked on the Netflix icon.
Yeah.
On my screen, on the TV screen, appears Whitney Houston.
Oh my
And it
God.
is the music video for
Yeah.
I Will Always Love You, like from
Oh
the
my
Bodyguard.
God.
The
That's
woman is
him.
singing I Will
Yeah.
Always Love You in
That
front of
is
me.
amazing.
And I at first I
Okay.
just saw it and I'm like, what is going
Yeah.
on here? I was trying to navigate
Yeah.
away from it. And then I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like,
And you hear that a
uh,
lot about how because it makes sense and it does make sense, like because energy can kind of, impact those waves or whatever. Like you hear a lot about like
I can't, it's just
TV
crazy.
screen on and all sorts of different
Yes.
songs coming on because that is an easier, the mediums explain it much better than me, but like that's an easier way for them to kind of reach us.
Right. Right. I
Amazing.
just, I know.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Beautiful
Crazy.
sign. It's a beautiful sign.
Yeah.
Tell
So,
me about what you're doing because I want to support and I want everyone who follows me to like know and
yeah.
you know.
So, I threw like a Christmas party for his friends back in December. And I
I
had this
saw
idea
that.
to,
It looked amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I had this idea to make these gift bags, and um, I called them Gilly's favorite things. His nickname's Gilly because his last name is Guilford. That's what his friends called him. So I created these bags that had like his favorite snacks in them. Like he was obsessed with goldfish crackers. He ate them all the time. Cheez-Its, 100 gram bars, Trix bars, whatever, bunch of snacks. And then I put a picture of him and a card that said on the back of it, like, you are loved, you matter.
Yeah.
And, I made like 30 of these or whatever and gave them to his friends and they loved him. And I decided, you know what, this is kind of cool. Maybe I'll just keep making these for people and I'll just give them randomly to people. And so I did. I would take them to family and friends. And then I started thinking about what I wanted to do to honor him. And I am not a believer. This has been a soapbox from mine for a long time. Like, we don't really need a lot of new nonprofits, like doing things that other people are already doing, right? We need to go support the people that are doing the things that matter. If it can be fixed or done better, whatever, but like in general,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I started meeting with people to talk about what I want to do. And I always say Jordan collected strays. Like, maybe that's offensive to some people, but he always had
Okay,
these
if they
like
are.
random friends and
Yeah.
like, kids have been kicked out of their homes,
Right.
foster kids,
Yeah.
whatever. And he would just tell them, my mom will let you sleep in our basement, or, like, I never knew who was living in
Totally.
that
He
house.
wanted to bring everyone home.
Yeah, he did. He did. And he helped people. He gave people, everything he had, whatever. So I was really like trying to find something that sort of was outreach to these kids. And so I started meeting with all these people and I would take these bags with me when I met with them. And everybody was so touched by them. And I finally met with this one mom who had a foundation for her son who died by suicide. They do mental health research and a lot of great things. And she was really taken by this. And she was like, have you started a nonprofit? I'd like to use these in something we do, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, not yet. I can't decide. And I left there and I just had this realization that, like, this is it. Like, this does not have to be complicated. I do not have to be solving a problem. I do not have to be like, I am just going to form this thing. I knew all along it was be called Gilly's Friends.
Yeah.
And we are going to do these Gilly's favorite thing bags, and I'm going to give them randomly to people. And maybe we will partner with people like this woman who has this foundation for her son, or the Louisville Youth Group, which is geared towards LGBTQ kids or whatever. And I'm just going to provide these bags to people, and I'm going to put suicide prevention information in them. And that's it for now. Like,
Yep.
and if it grows to something else, it grows to something else. But here's what we're going to do.
Right.
And so I formed it, and we're still waiting on nonprofit status because, I don't know if there's anybody working at the IRS right now. We fired them all, apparently.
Yeah.
It's not a political podcast, I know,
Crazy
but
times. Oh well, no. If you ever tune in, you'll hear me talk about
yeah,
political
I know.
matters
I
because I
know.
can't help it.
Oh, well, you can't not.
Who can? It's crazy
Yeah.
time.
So anyway, that's it. I'm waiting on that. But like
It's amazing.
tonight, a friend who I'm starting the podcast with is throwing a citywide graduation party for college students, LGBTQ kids, because all the universities here
Yeah.
have gotten scared and canceled all their lavender graduations and stuff.
Um,
So I know. So I have a room downstairs that has 62 bags stuffed with Gilly's friend stuff that I'm taking to this thing tonight. And that's what we're doing. Just
I want to come and I want to see you and
yes,
hug you and I want to visit Louisville and I want to take a bunch of them home with me because I
yes.
want them in our community room that we just set up for Molly's Foundation. And what
Oh,
I would
that'd be great.
say is like, and I really do feel like is this is what kind of keeps me going and keeps me from like descending into total despair. It's like I was saying, it's like similar to you. It's like I don't know. I didn't. This wasn't even my idea to start this, but I was like, well, okay. And then it was like, well, what I'm gonna just you start where you are. You use what you have. You do what you can, and it's like I really feel like, as I said, Molly seems to just kind of point me or point the other people into my direction in a way that just shows me the path forward. And maybe it's just, and maybe you just do the bags forever, but to figure out
Yeah,
like, who to partner with and like the different things that you do, it's like I really feel like it's like a connection with our kids, like,
yeah,
and that to me is really healing and something that like helps me keep going. And so I know people don't get that. And so people might see that and be like, well, I'm worried about her. She's just obsessed
yeah,
with her daughter and she just can't stop talking about her and she
yeah,
just move on with her life. I mean, my dad texted me that at some point, go back to work because he doesn't even realize like I can't.
hmm,
But it's like, yeah, that's sort of the whole ball game. And I feel like talking about it really will help a lot of people understand why some of us grieve this way. And I know not everyone does, right? But why, especially I think for when a life is cut very short, it's
hmm,
like why it is in many ways in my situation just kind of like it's the only way I can handle it. It's the only way
yeah,
I can be in this world without her in it, and I need to be here. The only way I can do it is through, you know, things like this. And it's not because I'm
yes,
dwelling or unhealthy, in my grief or something. It's just like, no, when she died, this new me was born. And now
hmm.
this new me is this way now. Like,
Oh yeah. I don't think I could have understood the concept, but I don't think I understood
yeah,
at all the before and after.
yeah,
Like there is like such a distinct
yeah.
marker in time. Like it was a completely different life before.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
wild. Wild. Well, I know you got to get to work, and I am just so glad we got to do this.
Me
And
too.
really want to see you in person, but I've been
Me
wanting to
too.
talk to you since all of this happened. And
I know.
been thinking of you so much. My first Mother's Day was surprisingly physical. Like I felt physically like the weight of grief, and I don't
Oh,
know.
your body knows. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the body knows. I
Yeah.
felt it so much in my physical body that I was just like, what the hell? Like, just I mean, I knew I was gonna be sad, and that like I feel like I got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't not to like I don't know.
No, I'm prepared.
That's a negative seed, but yeah, physical component of grief.
I know better than to believe that think I'm prepared for anything, right? So I am on Monday, which is the anniversary of his date of death, having a little gathering of his friends and some other people to launch officially the Skilly's favorite thing. And my sister was like, "Are you sure you want that do you want to have like a party? Like, do you sure you want to do something like that on that day? Are you thinking this through? And I said, you know what? Yes,
Yeah.
because it's going to be a day something is born.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Like we're going to change what that day is about, right? So
Yes.
that's not Mother's Day. Like I'm going to have to deal with that in its own way. But yeah, that's what's
I
happening on that
know
day.
that not
So
everyone does it this way, but I honestly believe that like it's the healthier way. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean, we all
judging.
do what we
Like,
have to do, right? Like
I'll leave it at this. Like, a lot of people have contacted me, about their own experiences with loss, and one guy who wrote to me, I mean, it was just like a short thing, but he wrote like about how his brother died when he was a child, and this man is like in his 50s, and his parents were so devastated that they never talked about the brother,
mm-hmm.
and this was just like not part of his life anymore. It was like this didn't happen. This was like didn't the brother was never there.
Yeah.
And he's married and has kids of his own. And he said, because I started following you and I started learning about how you live with Molly in the present.
Hmm.
I put up a picture of my brother and I have it in my house and I'm talking about him with my wife and my kids. And I was like, for all this shit I get, like, because being public facing in any way, you're going to get,
Yeah.
negative stuff, especially on social media. And it's like for whatever, for the people who don't get it, everything like, or people who think I'm, stuck in grief. It's like that kind of message was so meaningful to me because I'm like, I really believe like, and we don't even know the ripple effects of the way we touch people. And
Hmm.
it's like, even just like his kids who will never know me or Molly, like they know an uncle, like in some way that they didn't know they even had, and I think that's
Yeah.
really impactful.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what you do. I'm gonna obviously be a follower, supporter, and a friend of the pod, and I'll be learning from you how to how to do this whole podcasting game.
Oh, well, no. I
We'll
mean,
learn
I
from
will
each
send you the
other.
information
We'll
soon.
learn
That's going
from
to be
each
a whole
other.
other.
All right.
Yes. Yes. That'd be great. Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Kay.
Have
Bye.
a bye.
You too.